today I'm going to be filming basically how I prepare for my fashion illustration class, and we are working on a collection this time that the theme is knitwear, like North Pole. And so we had to do some research on the indigenous people of the northern countries. So I wrote down some notes, basically like what material they use, and then what kind of structure of clothes they're having. So like parkas, coats, like pants, everything like that. Well, today's video, I'm just going to show you what I've done already, and then going through the process of like how I actually draw the collection, and then just going through what I have so far. These are some drafts that I have of the clothing. My professor said that like not to be too directly inspired by indigenous people, just because we don't want to like infringe on their culture or like cultural appropriation. So it's just kind of looking at what they do, and then you can make a spin off of that. So I have 4 ideas here. These were some studies that I did in class, just when we were getting started on knitwear. So we had to learn about the stitches and then the different kind of knits. So I just made some notes here about like what kind of knits I would want to do, like cable knit, and then how like sweaters are ended. I don't know, like how they're closed off, like with the different kinds of stitching. So these are just some studies. These are my ideas. I also did some ideas at school, which is why this is on, well, not at school, at work, which is why this is on like a recycled paper. But I have some ideas for like a bunch of different layers, since we're doing like a colder, like winter collection, I would say. I'm going to choose a few of these, like out of these ideas, and then everything is falling apart. And then I also drafted, I drafted a few poses. I always draft my poses digitally, so I have a single pose here, and then a 2-person pose, and then I'm still working on my last 2 since we need 5 looks for this collection. But I think I'm gonna get started on drawing because it's due on Thursday and it's Sunday right now, so I want to have at least something that I can work on. Very long intro, but thanks for sticking around, and let's get into it. Okay, it's time for the voiceover. First, I'm going to go over some of the materials I used. I used a Prismacolor Cool Erase for this like red sketch that you see underneath. For all of the lining, I use a Tombow brush pen. It is the bigger one out of the 2 that comes in the set. After that, I use a kneadable eraser, I believe is from Blick. And then for the colors, I mainly use Copics, and then to add on, I also use Muji gel pens in 0.5, as well as various colored pencils from either Prismacolor or Crayola or what have you. So, I actually already made my presentation on this project in class, but I thought if you guys are watching this video, maybe you're interested in hearing my presentation, which is basically like the thoughts behind my process and like why I decided to design the way I did. Funny story. Okay, so in class, I was there, and then I started talking, and then my teacher was like, "Sis, you are going way fast." And I was like, I'm nervous. Like, I get so nervous presenting in front of people, even though there's like not that many people in our class. And she was like, calm down, like, we all admire you. And I was like, who's we? And like, I was just like, I could cry because I don't know. It was so stressful, but like, I don't know why it's so stressful. I just felt like people would see all the mistakes I made, and like I had to redo this last drawing you're seeing me draw on screen like 3 times. I had to redraw the poses and like the legs, and it wasn't looking right. And when it turned out, I still didn't like it, but since the deadline was there, I was like, okay, it's time to go. And then, I don't know, my teacher makes me feel very valid, so shout out to you. Anyway, I'll give my little brief presentation in a more casual way. So let's begin with that. My target demographic is young women, again, because I really like designing women's clothing. Although, obviously clothing has like no gender, but in like the fashion world, it is split up between like menswear and womenwear, though now there's more like non-binary. I just want to give a quick disclaimer that, you know, it's just like the terminology. So this collection is designed mostly for people who live in cooler climates and would probably need to layer up during the winter. And a lot of winter clothing is usually very muted, so I wanted to incorporate more color into these pieces. And that's one of my inspirations, was the color palette, which includes red, blue, and orange. I think I said this in the intro, but when we were researching indigenous people, I saw they had not a lot of those colors, but in like more special clothing, like festival clothing, even for like the indigenous people of like Taiwan, which is where I'm from, they include a lot of reds and blues, oranges, so I decided to include that. But also with my color palette, I wanted to include 2 other colors, so I added a dark purple, which is kind of like the night sky, and a cream color, which is kind of like the snow. So that's kind of how I tried to balance everything out. My main inspiration came from the knit patterns that we went over in class. I did a lot of studies in my sketchbook, as you could see. I guess you could count this collection as a little bit of 60s, especially with the layering of a sweater underneath a jumper or a dress, or maybe even 50s. Also inspired by the movie Carol, because I rewatched Carol while I was in the midst of researching this project. I love that movie. That is my 3rd favorite movie. But that whole movie is set in winter, like around Christmas time, so there are a lot of winter pieces in that movie, so I paid special attention to the accessories, especially. I'm so bad at enunciation, sorry, like gloves and hats and whatnot. I did want to emphasize like a silhouette that was like large but not bulky, so I tried to maintain the shape of the person, so the weight distribution is like emphasized around the body and less around the legs. Notes on the material. So this is knitwear. I wanted to use merino wool for the main pieces, like the cardigans and the big chunky sweaters. So that's really soft and popular, and also people don't have allergies to that like real wool. And the weight of the yarn would be sport weight yarn, and then for like the smaller detailed parts, I would, like the scallop details you'll see on this coat that I did, I would use lace weight yarn. And then also for the chunkier stuff, I would use worsted yarn. Larger areas of clothing, I believe, could be done in acrylic if it doesn't come in contact with the skin, just because sometimes the texture of that is a little different and not as soft as merino wool. The techniques I used: cable knit, popcorn stitch, pointelle, which is drop stitch for the main parts of the fabric. Let's see. So back to the fabrics. I don't know why I skipped around like that. This is why I'm so bad at presentations. I looked up a small like business and farm that like specifically provides merino wool in smaller quantities, and like hypothetically, if I were to make this collection, I would want to support small businesses just for like their sustainable practices and like their quality goods, obviously. So there are around 220 yards in a skein of yarn. For the merino wool yarn, it would be about $30 per skein from a small business. I'm saying skein wrong. Is it skein? Oh, okay. So what's happening on screen? This cardigan, I went in with green at first, but it was so ugly that I covered it with like 6 different other colors and it still didn't work, so I ended up like slapping washi tape on it. Anyway, continuing on. My other fabric would be Tencel denim, which is a softer denim. It's about $16 a yard, but for the jumper and the dresses, like anything that's in that like sky blue color, that's what it would be, like a soft denim. That's what it would be. It's not as thick as regular denim. It's more comfortable and it's less expensive. I don't know why I mentioned that like I want to be creating on a budget. Because the kids in my class, they're all like, yeah, this piece would cost about $1,000. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I like, I don't know. I've been like trained into the mindset of like budgeting is king. Actually, yeah, I think those were all the points I had to make for my presentation. But yeah, so I hope you continue enjoying me drawing this. And I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk a little bit about like my thought process behind it, even though it's very scattered and chaotic and I'm sweating because I'm like, I don't want to get judged on the internet, but it's fine because nobody will watch this video except for like, like 3 people. So shout out to you if you're still here. What else should I should just voice over this whole thing. I really like watching videos that have voiceover more than music, but sometimes it's really hard to think of what to say. Okay, this is me on day 2. I'm going to work. I changed my outfit though, which is why those 2 clips I was wearing like the red shirt and then I was wearing something else. But yeah, I was really stressed about this project in particular because I kind of was feeling bad on the Friday and Saturday the week before it was due, and so I didn't get any work done then. And so Sunday I finally like started the sketching, which you can see in like the video how I started. So that was day 1, and then I tried to get as much done as I could, but on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays I have to go into work, and so that takes up a huge chunk of my day, and I'm usually really tired by the time I get home. So I was like, how am I gonna do this? Also, forgot to mention, I work until like around 3, but then I have to rush home because I have an online class at 3, which is my English class. So I rush home at 3, and then I do that until 4:15. But then at 4:30, I have another class until like 6. So my whole day is like blocked off into work and classes. So I low-key did this during my supply chain class. But I'm doing well in that class, so don't even worry about it. I actually really enjoy that class. So anyway. One of the challenges I faced actually when doing this project was rendering like the knitwear details. I found it so challenging to show the texture of it being knitted by yarn, but not like trying to make it too shiny, but also, like it was so difficult for me. But I think it turned out pretty well because everyone was super like excited to see my stuff, and I was like, so maybe I'm being a little hard on myself. But I have my parents to thank for that, so thanks for the no praise, parents. Here I'm just doing, I really like this pattern that I did, which is like the pink, yellow, and orange. I think that makes it look really dynamic, just like really fun. And also another part I really like about this collection are the moon purses that I did, which you'll see at the end. I feel like my pièce de résistance is this crazy coat the girl on the right is wearing, the girl with like the dreadlock hair. Just because it looks so fancy, and I really like how like the sleeves look like cupcake sleeves, like the little cupcake muffin liners. I thought that was really funny. Also, if you see that like knit pattern on the big coat, isn't that exactly what we used to do in middle school, where we drew that like super S thing in our notebooks? Because when my teacher was teaching it in class, I was like, we used to draw those in our notebooks. But anyway, here's the pan over of the 2 pieces that I actually liked. So yeah, you get to see those finished. These took me hours. Like, over the span of multiple days. And here's a look at the final collection. I hope you got a chance to enjoy the video with me talking in the background, you know, like all crazy. I'm really happy with how these two turned out. Those drawings on the right, those are the ones that didn't come out as great as I wanted them to, only because I had to redo them so many times that I just kind of gave up. I think they still look pretty cohesive, but they also look like children, and then the other two drawings look like full-grown women, so it's kind of weird. Here are the floats. The floats looked good. I did them digitally. Here's me on my way to class of the day of the presentation. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next video I make. Bye!